Chapter 7. Stay grounded, stay grown. Aja gumanon, aja gatunon, aja kageton, aja aleman. In Javanese wisdom, there's a simple but powerful four-part reminder, a gentle yet firm call to emotional maturity. It goes like this. Aja gumanon, don't be too easily amazed. Aja gatunon, don't be too easily disappointed. Aja kageton, don't be too easily shocked. Aja aleman, don't act like a spoiled child. Now, this isn't just a list of things you shouldn't do. It's not about being restricted. It's a practical guide for finding emotional steadiness in a world that's constantly trying to grab your attention, demand your admiration, and trigger your impulses. Number 1. Aja gumanon. Do not be easily amazed. Look, life is truly full of marvels. Incredible wealth, stunning beauty, dazzling fame, inspiring success. But wonder, without a good dose of wisdom, can quickly turn into an unhealthy obsession. What does modern gumanon look like today? Idolizing celebrities to the point where we start imitating their lives without even thinking. Believing that luxury is the same thing as happiness. Assuming that success has to be shiny and loud to be real. A person who is too easily amazed becomes an easy target. They're easy to impress, easy to influence, and sadly, easy to deceive. Grounded admiration, on the other hand, is quiet. It can recognize true greatness without losing its own footing. Fame shock, wealth shock, power shock. Have you ever seen someone change almost overnight after a sudden success? They start speaking differently, dressing differently, even their tastes change. They forget old friends, drop good habits, and suddenly they don't have time for the people and things that used to matter. This isn't always pure arrogance. Sometimes it's a kind of culture shock, a mind that's completely unprepared for being elevated so quickly. Javanese wisdom reminds us with a simple saying, Endoche manuk ora dadi elong sakwingi. A chicken egg does not become an eagle overnight. So when change comes fast and furious, your job is to stay anchored. Stay yourself. Number 2. Aja gutunan. Do not be easily disappointed. Feeling disappointment isn't a weakness, but letting it rule your life is. We all have those moments of regret, don't we? That job that just didn't work out, the friend who walked away, the perfect plan that fell apart. But if we live too long in the land of what could have been, we lose sight of what still could be. Mature disappointment sounds like this. Okay, that hurt. That wasn't what I hoped for. Now, what can I learn from this? Javanese wisdom asks us to feel our feelings without drowning in them. Let regret be a teacher who visits now and then, not a permanent roommate. Number 3. Aja kageton. Do not be too easily shocked. And a world that can change in the blink of an eye. Being constantly surprised is a real liability. Aja kageton means expect the unexpected. Really? Build a sense of inner readiness. Cultivate a deep calm for when chaos inevitably erupts. What does this look like in practice? You hear a piece of gossip about a friend, you pause to verify it. You don't just immediately panic. You face a sudden financial hurdle. You take a breath and make a plan. You don't spiral into fear. A project you care about fails, you adjust your strategy. You don't emotionally collapse. This isn't about being apathetic. It's about building resilience. Surprises don't shake you because you are never standing on shallow ground to begin with. Number 4. Aja aleman. Do not act like a spoiled child. This is perhaps the most challenging of them all. Aja aleman means don't be too sensitive to either praise or criticism. Don't constantly demand the spotlight and everyone's attention. Don't throw tantrums, whether they're out in the open or just raging silently in your own head. We're not children anymore. We don't need the world to clap for our every single step. And we don't need to sulk when things don't go exactly our way. True maturity isn't about your age. It's about your response to life.
What childishness looks like in adulthood. It shows up in subtle ways. Needing to always be agreed with, crumbling under small everyday inconveniences, making every situation about oneself, using praise like it's oxygen, and treating criticism like it's poison. True adulthood is different. It absorbs praise with grace and meets criticism with quiet reflection. It asks a simple question: is there truth here for me? And then the most important question: what will I do with it? The deep wisdom of these 4. When you put them all together, these 4 teachings are an invitation to become a stable soul in a very unstable world. To not be emotionally whiplashed by the news, the latest trends, or your own shifting moods. To not be so easily led astray by awe, by regret, by shock, or by your own ego. To be able to hold your ground with grace, even when the winds around you are shifting wildly. Because let's be honest, the world will always shift. How to cultivate this inner stability. This is a practice. Here's how you can start. Practice the pause. Don't feel you have to respond to everything instantly. Let that initial raw emotional wave pass right through you first. Observe your own patterns. Start to notice when you're slipping into gumunan, getunan, kagetan, or aleman. Just catch it, name it to yourself, and then choose to respond differently. Ground yourself in principle. Let your core values, not your fleeting reactions, be what guides your steps. Surround yourself with steadiness. Seek out mature friends. Welcome honest feedback. Immerse yourself in quiet wisdom. And let life humble you, gently. Remember, not everything is a 5-alarm crisis, and not everything is about you. Conclusion: grown, not hardened. It's important to know that Javanese philosophy isn't asking us to become cold, cynical, or numb to the world. It's asking us to be steady, but not stiff, mature, but not bitter, humble, but not hollow, awake to life, but not constantly reactive to it. So let's take this with us. Aja gumunan. Admire wisely, but keep your feet on the ground. Aja getunan. Regret gently, then let it go and move forward. Aja kagetan. Prepare calmly for life's inevitable surprises. Aja aleman. Respond like a grounded adult, not a reactive child. This is how we learn to live, not untouched by the world, but unruled by it.
Chapter 8. Detached from power, wealth, and pleasure. Aja ketungkul marang kalungguhan, kadonyan, lan kamareman. In Javanese philosophy, there's a quiet but powerful warning. It goes, aja ketungkul marang kalungguhan, kadonyan lan kamareman. Do not be consumed by power, possessions, or indulgence. Now, this isn't a call for poverty. It's not about being passive. It's a plea for clarity. It's about learning to live without becoming a slave to the things you think you own. Because so often, the things we cling to the hardest end up owning us. The illusion of control. Think about it. A person in power might seem like a ruler, but so often they are being ruled by the fear of losing that very power. A rich person might appear completely free, but they can be shackled to their wealth by anxiety, by greed, by pride. It's possible to be surrounded by every luxury and still feel a deep emptiness inside. It's possible to be admired by thousands and still feel completely alone and afraid. This is why the Javanese say, sing dadi juragan kui, kadang dadi jongose karape dewe. The one who appears to be the boss is often just a servant to his own desires. Modern slavery wears a suit. We like to think we're free, but let's be honest. How many of us are trapped by the job title that defines our entire sense of worth? The salary we feel absolutely cannot afford to lose. The lifestyle we can't really sustain, but are too proud to step away from. We chase promotions, followers, likes, designer labels, believing deep down that these things will finally liberate us. But real freedom isn't about having more. It's about needing less. Love of wealth, a quiet captivity. Wealth itself isn't evil. It's neutral. But when you love wealth, when you become emotionally attached to it, you become its property. You could say there are two kinds of wealth. Functional wealth, things like food, shelter, care for your family. These things serve life, they are tools. And identity wealth, things like status, image, luxury goods. These things serve the ego. They are traps. It's the difference between driving your car and letting your car drive you. When your car is just a car, you use it. When it becomes part of your identity, it starts to use you. What real richness looks like. Real richness shows up in a person who can sleep peacefully at night without worrying about their image or status, shares what they have generously without secretly calculating what they'll get in return, leads without being afraid of losing their position because they were never owned by it in the first place. There's a Javanese saying that captures this perfectly. Sugi iku dudu sing duwe ake, nanging sing ora kepengin luwe. The truly rich person is not the one who has the most, but the one who desires less. When the heart is not free, when your identity is tied to your status, you become incredibly vulnerable. A little praise can make you feel high. A bit of criticism can make you crumble. A loss becomes not just a setback, but a total collapse of yourself. But if your identity is rooted in your values, in who you are at your core, not in what you have, then you stay intact even when things around you are falling apart. The quiet trap of prestige. Sometimes power looks noble from the outside, but if you look closer, you might see a leader who ends up serving their followers every whim more than being served by them. Someone who adjusts their morals just to please donors or voters. A person who stays silent in the face of injustice just to protect their own image. That's not leadership. That's imprisonment in a cage that just so happens to be shaped like a throne. A culture obsessed with more. Walk into any bookshop. The shelves are filled with books on business, branding, building empires. Look around. Everyone seems busy leveling up. But behind so many of those shiny, successful lives, you often find deep exhaustion, constant anxiety, a feeling of loneliness, and this persistent lowering fear of becoming irrelevant. The Javanese path doesn't ask you to abandon your ambition. It only asks that you do not worship it.
True freedom is internal. Ask yourself, are you truly free? You are not truly free if you cannot say no when you need to. You cannot walk away from a situation that compromises your values. You cannot even imagine a life without applause, without constant upgrades, without being in control. Real freedom looks like this: saying no even when it's unpopular, choosing your values over mere convenience, living simply, not because you can't afford more, but because you genuinely prefer a life of depth over a life of excess. Spiritual detachment really means using things without needing them to be happy. Enjoying success when it comes, without clinging to it for your identity. Letting things go when it's time, without your whole world collapsing. Signs you are free, even with much. You'll know you're truly free when you can be generous without a flicker of anxiety. You can be ignored or overlooked without feeling insecure. You can lose something important without feeling like you've lost yourself. Remember, true freedom isn't about running away from responsibility. It's about remembering that your soul is worth infinitely more than any contract, any job title, or any piece of praise. Conclusion: what the Javanese always knew. The world will always offer you more. But the Javanese path whispers a caution. Be wary of what you chase with all your heart. You might just catch it, and in the process, lose yourself. Do not be consumed by status. Do not be blinded by glitter. Do not trade your soul for a little temporary comfort. Ajo ketungkul marang kalungguhang kadonyan lang kamareman. Let power serve the people. Let wealth serve wisdom. Let comfort serve clarity. Because when everything else fades, and it will, you'll want your hands empty, but your soul completely full. Chapter 9. Stay humble, stay honest. Ojo kuminter mundak kiblinger. Ojo chitra mundak chiloka. In Javanese thought, true wisdom walks steadily on 2 feet, humility and integrity. The first teaches us, Ojo kuminter mundak kiblinger. Don't act all-knowing, or you might just lose your way. And the second warns, Ojo chidra mundak chiloka. Don't cheat or deceive, or you may invite your own disaster. Together, these 2 principles work like a compass and a shield, guiding you through life and protecting you from the traps of arrogance and deceit. 1. Do not be too certain you're right. Ojo kuminter mundak keblinger. Let's talk about overconfidence. It isn't strength. Really, it's a kind of blindness, wearing a very confident smile. You know you might be in danger when you find yourself stopping listening to other people. You start dismissing feedback as jealousy or ignorance. You begin to believe that your past success means you're always right.
But Javanese wisdom gently reminds us, even the sharpest knife in the drawer can't sharpen itself. If you ever start to think you've mastered life, well, life has a quiet way of humbling you. What arrogance really looks like? You see it in small ways every day. The seasoned professional who refuses to learn anything from their juniors. The leader who mocks new ideas without really considering them. The friend who always needs to be right, even about the smallest, most trivial things. This isn't confidence. This is kuminter, a self-assuredness that has forgotten all about self-awareness. And it inevitably leads to Giblinger, getting hopelessly lost in the maze of your own ego. Humility is not insecurity. Now let's be clear. Humility doesn't mean you think you're worthless. It simply means you remember one crucial thing. You don't know everything. It shows up as being genuinely open to the possibility that you might be wrong, asking questions freely even when you're the most experienced person in the room, recognizing wisdom when it shows up in the most unexpected places, even from people you might consider below you. Javanese culture deeply honors those who are alus, refined, gentle in spirit, and receptive. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, and certainly not the self-important. 2. Do not deceive or betray. Ojochidra mundak chiloka. Deception can seem so easy in the moment. But then again, so is falling into a hole if you're walking without watching where you're going. Cheating, whether it's in business, in relationships, or in small daily acts, always carries a cost. Even when it's done in total secret, it erodes something essential: trust. There's a saying, Chidra mung saperlubiso, nanging chiloko te kanurip mukabe. Deceit might get you what you want for a moment, but it brings misfortune to your entire life. The many forms of cheating. It doesn't always look like a villain in a story. It can be falsifying a report at work just to look more successful. Breaking a promise because you think, they'll never find out. Pretending to be someone you're not, just to gain some advantage. You might win for a little while, but inside your own foundation is quietly weakening. The Javanese believe that what is gained dishonestly will always take something else with it: your peace of mind, your reputation, or even the harmony of your family. Why cheating always backfires? In the end, you lose so much. You lose sleep, lying awake with worry. You lose the trust of people who mattered to you. You lose your own self-respect. And eventually, you often lose the very thing you cheated to get in the first place. A reputation lost to deceit is 1,000 times harder to rebuild than any lost fortune. Even intentions matter. Javanese wisdom doesn't just look at your actions, it also cares deeply about your nihat, your intention. Simply wanting to cheat is already a warning sign in your spirit. Just planning a betrayal, even if you never go through with it, clouds your character. Wongalok wi dudul mong sing tumindak ala, nangin udul sing mikir ala. A bad person isn't just one who acts badly, but one who entertains bad thoughts. Living with integrity is not naive. Some people will tell you, but the world is cruel. You have to bend the rules just to survive. And maybe there's some truth to that, but the Javanese would ask you, survive as what? As a person who is deeply respected, or as someone who is merely tolerated? Winning by cheating is like trying to climb a ladder of thorns. You might reach the top, but you'll be bleeding the whole way up, and you could still fall in the end.
Practical ways to live these teachings. To avoid kuminter, that arrogance, ask for feedback, especially when it makes you feel uncomfortable. Never stop learning, and make a point to learn from people you outrank or are supposed to know more than. Admit when you're wrong. Do it quickly, and without a long list of excuses. To avoid chidra, that deceit, honor your word, even in the smallest, seemingly unimportant things. Speak your truth, but do it gently and firmly. Always think long-term. Cheating often gives you a short-term gain, but it almost always leads to long-term ruin. If you've already made mistakes, listen, you're not alone. Everyone has stumbled here. But not everyone makes the choice to repair the damage. Javanese culture deeply honors the willingness to change, to find your way back to balance even after a period of serious imbalance. And real humility often begins with the simple, courageous act of recognizing when you've lost your way. Conclusion: the way of the wise. So let's carry these with us. Aja kuminter mundak keblinger. Don't let your knowledge become a trap that you fall into. Aja chidra mundak chilaka. Don't let your cleverness turn into cruelty. The wise don't pretend to be perfect. They just walk a little more lightly, speak a little more carefully, and strive to act with clean hands and a clear heart. They understand that real strength lies not in dominating others, but in the discipline you hold over yourself. And they know that success without honor is really just a very public kind of failure. Choose humility before life finds a way to humble you. Choose honesty before the truth finds its own way out. And walk this Javanese path not just to look wise in the eyes of others, but to quietly, steadily become it. Chapter 10. Power is not for pride. Ajagang, Ajadigung, and Ajadiguna. In Javanese wisdom, echoed in that timeless text, the Seret Wulongre, there's a clear warning against three subtle but deeply dangerous forms of arrogance. They are Ajagang, relying too much on brute strength; Ajadigung, relying too much on high status or authority; and Ajadiguna, relying too much on intelligence or skill. Now, all three of these might impress people in the short term, but all three will ultimately fail you if you carry them with pride. Think of it like this. The deer is incredibly fast, but it can still stumble and fall. The elephant is immensely mighty, yet it can be trapped. The snake is clever and cunning, but it can die by its own poison. That's the parable, and that's the pattern. Ajagang, strength without restraint. Muscle without mindfulness just becomes menace. In our modern world, Ajagang shows up as a boss who leads through fear and intimidation, a parent who controls every detail instead of gently guiding, a celebrity who starts to believe their fame makes them immune to the rules. But true strength is not the loudest voice in the room. It's the one that doesn't feel the need to shout at all. The Javanese have always admired a calm, quiet power, like a great volcano that chooses not to erupt. Ajadigung, position without humility. Some people wear their titles like a suit of armor. They forget a fundamental truth, that real leadership is about service, not superiority. You know you're seeing Ajadigung when a leader stops listening to the very people they're supposed to represent. A supervisor acts as if they are above being corrected or given feedback. A politician manipulates the system purely for their own gain. Status, when used wisely, can uplift entire communities, but when it's worshipped, it becomes a lonely pedestal, a tower of isolation. Remember, the higher you climb with arrogance, the harder and farther you eventually fall. Ajadiguna, intelligence without grace. Knowledge is a powerful thing, but when it turns into self-worship, it becomes a poison. Ajadiguna shows its face when someone simply cannot admit they're wrong, even about small things. A person uses their intelligence to manipulate or outsmart others. Academic titles become masks to hide behind, to avoid ever having to be humble. Javanese wisdom places a higher value on budi luhur, a noble and refined character, than on just sharp thinking alone. Because really, what's the use of a brilliant mind if it's unable to bow? All three can be tools or traps. Now let's be clear, strength, status, and intelligence are not evil in themselves. They're just tools. But if you start leaning on them as proof of your worth, you risk becoming a hollow caricature of who you truly are. So the lesson of ajagang, ajadigung, and ajadiguna isn't don't have power. It's this: don't let that power end up having you. Modern symptoms of the disease. You can see this sickness all around us. A wealthy person flaunting their generosity on social media for praise. A scholar who mocks those with less formal education. A leader who tries to build their own legacy by erasing the contributions of others. All of this is what you might call performative strength. It's flashy, it's hollow, and in the end, it's deeply unstable. What true greatness looks like. Real greatness is much quieter. It looks like a wise elder who spends more time listening than speaking. A teacher who isn't afraid to admit to their students that they too are still learning. A community leader who stays behind to quietly sweep the floor after everyone else has gone home. This is quiet power. It's grounded, it's centered, and it lasts. What happens when arrogance spreads? When people in leadership positions model ajagang, ajadigung, and ajadiguna, others begin to imitate them. And then, societies become more about performance than real principle. Compassion slowly gives way to ruthless competition. Trust, the glue of society, begins to decay. There's an old saying, a fish rots from the head down. In the same way, a culture begins to rot when its highest voices stop listening to anyone but themselves. Reclaiming humility in a loud world. But there is another way. You can be powerful without needing to dominate. You can be wise without a hint of condescension. You can lead without lording it over anyone. This is what the Javanese path offers us. Not a rejection of greatness, but a quieter, more disciplined version of it. How to resist the three temptations. It's a daily practice. Here's how you can start. Reflect regularly. Ask yourself honestly, am I truly listening to others, or am I just waiting for my turn to be heard? Let others shine. Real shared power is power that's multiplied, not diminished. Celebrate curiosity. No matter how smart you are, there is always something left for you to learn. Welcome correction. Some of the wisest people you'll ever meet are the ones who surround themselves with others brave enough to disagree with them. Your legacy is not built on applause. Think about this. You won't be remembered for how powerful you are. You'll be remembered for how safely other people could stand near your power. Strength that doesn't instill fear. Status that carries no arrogance. Knowledge that is free from cruelty. That is the Javanese ideal. Conclusion. Power isn't the problem, ego is. So let's carry these reminders in our hearts. Aja ajagang. Don't let your strength turn into a threat. Aja digung. Don't let your status become a wall between you and others. Aja diguna. Don't let your intellect inflate your ego. Use what you have, your power, your position, your smarts, not to prove how great you are, but to serve, to lift others up. Because in the final reckoning, what makes you truly noble is not what you hold in your hands, but what you choose to lift with them.
Chapter 11. A guided soul knows its path. Sapaweru ing panuju, sasad pagarwesi. In Javanese wisdom, having a clear sense of purpose isn't just inspiring, it's liberating. There's a powerful saying, Sapaweru ing panuju, sasat pagarwesi. Those who truly know where they are headed can break through even iron walls. Think about that for a moment. It speaks to a timeless truth. When a person has a clear, noble goal, they'll find a way forward no matter what stands in their path. While others might stumble, complain, or get distracted by every shiny thing along the roadside, the person with panuju, with that inner direction, just keeps moving forward with a quiet resolve. When you don't know your why, we live in a world that's flooded with options. And because of that, so many people end up wandering through life without an anchor. They chase money but find no real meaning in it. They gather experiences, yet somehow lose a sense of who they are. They change careers, partners, cities, and yet, inside, they still feel adrift. Without an inner compass, you see, even constant motion can become a kind of stagnation. Wealth is not a destination. So many people believe their main goal in life is simple, to get rich. But wealth, all by itself, is never enough. Why do you think that is? A young child would always choose play over a stack of banknotes. A teenage valley values friendship far more than any investment portfolio. An elderly person would likely trade millions of dollars for just one more year of good health. This shows us something fundamental. Wealth has no absolute value. Its worth depends entirely on the context and on your clarity of purpose. The Javanese never condemned being wealthy. They simply refused to worship it. Life is not one-dimensional. Our lives aren't just physical. They aren't just material. They are layered, body, mind, and soul. Life is a journey of meaning, not just a checklist of milestones. Ancient cultures understood this deeply. The Egyptians built tombs for the afterlife, for eternity. The Vikings fought courageously for a place in Valhalla. Javanese sages spent their lives in meditation, seeking spiritual harmony, not status or fame. To reduce this vast, layered experience down to just a salary, a job title, or momentary stimulation is to choose to live on a very narrow frequency. Modern confusion, mistaking pleasure for purpose. When our belief in a deeper meaning starts to fade, people often start living for the next party, a hit of popularity, the next possession, or a flawless performance for others. This isn't evil, but it is empty if it's completely disconnected from a greater context. Without a true direction, freedom slowly turns into just drift. A purpose beyond the self. The Javanese idea of panuju isn't a selfish one, it's relational. It suggests let your purpose benefit not just you, but the people and the world around you. Just imagine using your wealth to genuinely uplift others, not just to decorate your own life. using your position of leadership to serve, not to dominate. Using your knowledge to enlighten and help, not to intimidate. The more noble and connected your goal, the stronger and clearer your guidance becomes. Life as a test, not a party. If you believe life is only about pleasure, you'll panic when pain inevitably arrives. But if you see life as a test, a place to build character, to develop wisdom, to serve something meaningful, then hardship becomes part of the necessary curriculum. In Javanese culture, challenges are seen as necessary refiners, not as random punishments. There's a beautiful saying, "Urip iku senau, mati iku lulus." To live is to learn, to die is to graduate. What it means to break through iron walls. When you walk through life with a clear purpose, you find it easier to say no to distractions because you know deeply what you're saying yes to. You can endure criticism because you're focused on the long view. You don't panic when storms hit because you know the shore you're ultimately sailing towards. This is what sasad pagarwesi means, breaking through the iron walls that stop other people in their tracks. The difference isn't that you have more power, it's that you have more clarity. The power of internal direction. When your life is truly aligned with a deeper purpose, obstacles start to look like puzzles to solve, not prisons to live in. Setbacks feel more like redirections, not total failures. Time feels precious, not like something you need to kill. People with panuju don't wander aimlessly. They advance with intention. Signs you've lost your direction? How can you tell if you've lost your way? You might feel envy toward others constantly. Jump from one goal to the next, never really finishing anything. Feel busy all the time, but never truly fulfilled. Chase the latest trends only to tire of them almost immediately. These are often symptoms of an internal drift, not a lack of external things. How to find your true purpose? If you're feeling lost, here are a few places to start looking. 1. Reflect on what gives you real energy. What makes time fly for you? What brings you a quiet, steady joy? 2. Pay close attention to what breaks your heart. Very often, your purpose is waiting for you where your natural compassion flows. 3. Ask yourself, who benefits if I succeed? A purpose that includes the well-being of others is always more powerful and sustainable. 4. Revisit ancient wisdom. The answers you're looking for might already exist in Javanese proverbs, in your grandparents' old stories, in the quiet of your own introspection. Living with Panuju changes everything. Once you truly know your direction, you stop comparing your path to everyone else's. You no longer panic when things don't go according to plan. You don't feel empty when the outside world ignores you. You become anchored. You might bend in a strong storm, but you will not break. Conclusion: direction over decoration. In a world that's utterly obsessed with surface, the Javanese path teaches us to seek depth. Sapawero ing panuju, sasad pagarwesi. Those who know where they are going can walk through iron. So let other people chase the noise. You chase meaning. Let others crave applause. You seek inner alignment. Let your life be a slow-burning fire that provides warmth and light, not a quick flare that vanishes in an instant. And when the winds of life rise, as they always do, you won't be swept away. Because a purpose, once you find it, is the only compass that never, ever lies. Chapter 12. Obstacles are not barriers, they are the path. Alang-alang, dudu aling-aling, margining utamam. In Javanese wisdom, hardship isn't seen as a curse or a misfortune. It's seen as training. There's a powerful saying, alang-alang dudu aling-aling, margining kautaman. Obstacles are not blockages. They are the very edges of virtue. Think about that. The path to true strength doesn't avoid resistance. It goes straight through it. Just as iron is sharpened in the fire, the human soul grows and refines itself through difficulty. When life blocks your path, we've all been there. Those moments where life suddenly feels like a locked gate. That job application rejected for what feels like the 100th time. A relationship you poured your heart into, falling apart. A health diagnosis that changes everything in an instant. In moments like these, it's so tempting to tell ourselves, I must be cursed. I've made too many mistakes. This just isn't fair. But the Javanese teaching offers a different perspective. Don't read obstacles as punishments. Read them as invitations to grow into the person you need to become for the next chapter of your life. The hidden curriculum of adversity. Hardships, if we let them, teach us invaluable things. True endurance, deep clarity, real humility, unshakable patience, strategic thinking, profound compassion. Without these tests, our virtues remain untested, like a beautiful sword that's never been unsheathed. Hardship reveals direction. Think about great rivers. They don't flow in a straight line, do they? They curve, they twist, they crash over rocks. Our lives are so much like that. The presence of resistance doesn't automatically mean you're on the wrong path. It might actually mean you're exactly where you're supposed to be, stretching into a stronger version of yourself. Historical lessons of endurance. You don't have to look far to find inspiring examples. The street vendor who faces rejection every single day, but still manages to raise 3 children with unwavering dignity. The artist who is ignored for years, even decades, only to be celebrated later simply because they refuse to quit. Communities that rebuild their lives after a disaster, not with bitterness, but with the powerful collective hope. Virtue is often born at the edge, in those difficult places most people are quick to abandon. Success is not always smooth. Consider stories we all know. Walt Disney was rejected hundreds of times and was even told he lacked imagination. J.K. Rowling was turned down by a dozen publishers before one finally said yes. They didn't succeed because life was easy for them. They succeeded because they kept walking through the brambles and they never turned back. They learned how to turn their obstacles into fuel, turning emotional turbulence into power. Feelings like anger, sadness, jealousy, fear, these are completely natural responses to hardship. But if we let them run wild, they can become angers, holding us down. Here's a Javanese insight. Let the emotion pass through you. Don't let it possess you. So, instead of lashing out in anger, try to listen. Collapsing in sadness, try to compose yourself. Complaining endlessly, try to clarify the situation. Remember, emotion is just energy, and when it's directed wisely, it can become pure momentum. Breaking free from victimhood. It's so easy to fall into feeling like the whole world is against you. But victimhood is a mindset, not a life sentence. You can't change what's already happened, but you can change the story you tell yourself about it. Try asking yourself these questions. What is this situation trying to teach me? What would it look like to grow from this experience? What is one small, tiny step I can take right now, even if it feels insignificant? from surviving to strategizing. Once you find a bit of emotional calm, clarity often follows. Don't just try to survive your problems, study them. You can try these steps. Define your challenge as clearly as you can. Identify realistic outcomes, not fantasy rescues. Break big, scary tasks into small, doable ones. Persist and review your progress. Adjust your approach and then repeat. Often, obstacles aren't solid walls. They're puzzles, and they're solved with a mix of persistence and humility. Spiritual readiness. Tie your horse and trust. There's a Javanese saying that puts it perfectly. Gusti orazare, nanging koe kodume apke sandangan mudeve. What does that mean for us? Trust the universe absolutely, but also remember to tie your horse securely. Believe that there's meaning in your journey, but also pair that belief with disciplined work. Pray with all your heart, but then get up and act. Don't sit around expecting miracles if you haven't done the work to prepare for them. Preventative wisdom before trouble arrives. Let's be real. You can't prevent all pain, but you can definitely reduce unnecessary suffering by thinking things through before you act, seeking wise advice before you make a big commitment, being brutally honest with yourself early on before a small problem has a chance to grow into a giant one. And when you're unsure, just ask. Take time to reflect. Slow down. Often, your soul already knows the answer. You just haven't been quiet long enough to hear it. Conclusion. The gift inside the difficulty. So, let's return to that core idea. Alang-alang dudu aling-aling. The obstacle is not your enemy. It is the edge of your next greatness. So don't ask for a lighter load. Ask for stronger shoulders to carry it. Don't resent the brambles on the path. They might just be protecting something truly worth reaching. Because when you finally stand on the far side of your difficulty, with your heart still intact and your spirit sharpened and bright, you'll understand. That was not a wall keeping you out. That was a doorway waiting for you to walk through.
Epilogue: The light you carry. Javanese wisdom. It isn't loud. It doesn't arrive in shining armor shouting slogans. It comes quietly, through a simple proverb, a gentle gesture, a knowing glance from an elder, in the comfortable silence between words. But once you truly hear it, you can't unhear it. It becomes a kind of inner compass. It doesn't shout for your attention, but it's always there, gently pointing you back to your center. You are the flame. Urep iku urup. Life is light. Your life isn't meant to be a grand monument for others to admire. It's meant to glow. You may never be rich or powerful or famous. And you know what? That's not the point. If you've ever helped someone carry their burden, if your simple presence brings warmth instead of worry, then you've lived well. Be useful. Be kind. Even if no one ever makes a post about it. Fight without fury. Mamayu hayuning bawana, ambrasta dulhankara. You don't always need a sword to be strong. What you need is a compassion that endures, and a conviction that refuses to be cruel. The world isn't healed by domination, but by quiet daily acts of restoration. Choose softness over noise. Shura dera jayaningrat lebur vening pangastati. Let your strength be wrapped in tenderness, not because you're weak, but because you're in control of yourself. Don't feel you have to meet fire with more fire. Be water instead. Be stillness. Be the one who consciously chooses to end the cycle of hurt.
Walk with substance, not style. Guruk tanpa bala, menang tanpa ngasorake. You don't need a crowd behind you to be brave. You don't need trophies on a shelf to have worth. You don't need applause to walk in your truth. Let your victories be quiet ones, and make sure they are never, ever cruel. Stay rooted. Aja milik barang kang milok. Not everything that shines is sacred. The world will constantly tempt you to upgrade your life. But peace isn't found in the next upgrade, it's found in knowing what is enough. Learn to say quietly to yourself, this is sufficient. That's the kind of wealth most people spend their lives searching for. Release what you can't keep. Datan serik lamon ketaman, datan susa lamon kalangan. You will lose things. You will lose people. You will lose dreams you held dear. But through it all, try not to lose yourself. Let grief visit. It's a natural guest. But don't let it take a permanent residence. Let resentment knock at your door, but never ever hand it the keys. Grow upward, but stay grounded. Aja gumunan, getunan, kagetan aleman. Let your emotions breathe, feel them fully, but don't let them take the driver's seat. Admire, but don't worship. Regret, but don't let it collapse you. Be surprised, but don't spiral. And learn to carry your own weight, without constantly demanding that the world carry it for you. This is adulthood, the Javanese way.
Have things, but don't be had. Aja katungkul marang kaluguhan, kadunyan lan kamareman. It's okay to use power. Just don't spend your life chasing it. It's wonderful to enjoy wealth. Just don't become enslaved by it. It's human to savor pleasure. Just don't let it rule you. You're not meant to escape the world, but you are meant to walk through it without losing your soul. Be wise, not just smart. Aja kuminthar mundak kebelinger, aja chidra mundak chilaka. Let your intelligence always bow to humility. Let your strategy always serve your integrity. Don't be too clever for your own good. Remember, what you win through deceit, you often pay back with your own peace of mind. Use power with restraint. Aja adigang, adigung, adigunan. Your strength, your position, your brilliance. Carry them lightly, like water cupped in your hands. Don't squeeze, don't splash. The Javanese admire power most when it chooses not to be used. Know where you're going. Sapa weru ing panuju, sasad pager wesi. Life is long, and the path is often unclear. But those who know their purpose, however simple it may be, can walk through storms that would make others turn back. Purpose isn't just a vision board on your wall. It's a deep sense of direction that can turn your suffering into meaning. Resistance refine you. Alang alang dudu aling aling margini kautaman. Don't fear obstacles. Fear the comfort that makes you numb, that puts you to sleep. Struggle is not always a sign you're on the wrong path. Sometimes it's a signal that you are on the very edge of a great growth. Final whisper. Walk gently, burn steadily. So, you've journeyed through these 12 ideas. Remember, they aren't rigid instructions, they are invitations. You will not master them all. Let's be real, no one ever does. But if you can hold onto even one of them
and live it slowly, quietly, honestly. You will carry forward a light that was first passed to you by your ancestors. You are not just one person walking alone. You are a continuation of thousands who walked this path before you. Their sandals may have been dusty, but their hearts were always awake. So live with dignity. Speak with care. Give more than you take. And when you find yourself in doubt, return to this simple Javanese wisdom. Be strong, but without all the shouting. Be noble, but without the need for display. Be present, but without the pride. Be a steady light, not a flash of lightning that's here one moment and gone the next. That is enough. Truly, that is everything.